Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joseph Cronin. I'm the director of the Leo Baeck Institute London, and I'm delighted to invite you to the fourth and final lecture of 2024 lecture series, which is organized in partnership with the German Historical Institute London, and I'm very happy that the director of the German Historical Institute London, Professor Christina von Hodenberg, is joining us this evening, and she'll say a few words directly after me. It's an honor to welcome our speaker tonight, Grzegorz Kwiatkowski, a Polish poet, musician, and activist. Grzegorz' work encompasses literature, music, and human rights advocacy. He is the author of numerous poetry collections that grapple with themes of history, remembrance, and ethics. Notable examples include the collection Crops, published in English in 2021, and most recently, Without an Orchestra, which was published in German this year, 2024. His poetry is written in an arresting minimalist style. It does many things. It preserves the memory of Holocaust victims, but it also encourages us to think and calls us to take action in the present. In addition to his literary work, Grzegorz is a member of the critically acclaimed rock band Trupa Trupa. Apologies for the pronunciation.
It's so good.
It's all right. The band's music, much like his poetry, deals with themes of memory, history, and resistance to hate. They've performed at festivals around the world and received acclaim from figures like Iggy Pop and Henry Rollins, as well as from media outlets such as NPR, the New York Times, and The Guardian. Finally, Grzegorz' activism, which is rooted in his family's history, is dedicated to preserving Holocaust memory and combating antisemitism and xenophobia. His advocacy has resulted in the installation of Stolpersteine in Gdańsk, Poland, the preservation of Jewish heritage sites in the city, and efforts to protect Holocaust artifacts. He believes passionately in the transformative power of art to confront hate, a belief he has shared through guest lectures and visiting fellowships at institutions like Yale, Stanford, and Berkeley. So tonight we have the privilege of hearing from a voice that bridges art, history, and activism, a voice committed to ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten and that we continue to strive for a more just and empathetic future. But before we welcome Grzegorz, I'm going to hand over to Professor Christina von Hodenberg.
Thank you, David.
Well, I don't want to keep you really. We want to hear your lecture, and I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad that our support and our collaboration with the Leo Baeck Institute continues, because the German Historical Institute's reason of being really is also to safeguard the knowledge of history, to make sure that something like the Holocaust can never be denied, to also actively work against anti-Semitism, but of course to do so in scholarly ways, and by furthering scholarship and encounter and anti-stereotyping in all the ways that we can imagine. I'm very glad that we have this collaboration, and I hope that I can tempt the Leo Baeck Institute at some point to come back into our premises at Bloomsbury Square, where we used to host the lectures, but that's maybe something that we can discuss later. And yeah, I'm very keen to hear from you, and I don't want to keep you from Grzegorz Kwiatkowski.
The pronunciation is very, very good.
Try
Yours
to
and Joseph, yeah.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm very, very happy that I'm here, and I'm very, very happy that maybe you will be happy after hearing what I want to say. And the point is that I'm not sure what I will say exactly. I've got also always two modes of guest lectures. One is very well prepared, and I'm going from point A to B at C, and this one will be really improvised thing. And I think, yeah, and let's check it out. So my name is Grzegorz Kwiatkowski. I'm from Freistadt Danzig, from city of Gdańsk, in the north of Poland by the Baltic Sea. And it's very crucial in my artistic life and in my life, because Gdańsk is the place where the Second World War started. It's one of the worst events in the world's history. But on the other hand, Gdańsk is the place where the solidarity worker movements was established in 70s and in 80s, and it changed the whole European history. It crushed the communism system in Europe in 80s and at the beginning of 90s. So on one hand, Gdańsk is the city of tragedy, and on the other hand, Gdańsk is the city of hope. And I think that I don't know better city in Poland than Gdańsk really. The people are really more left-wing, more open-minded and hearted. I don't want to say any bad things about the other people from other parts of Poland, but I think that Gdańsk and free cities are really special. And yes, so the point of me as an artist, because I'm a poet, I'm a musician, I'm a scholar. The point is the history of my family and my grandfather, Józef Kwiatkowski, when he was a child. He was a prisoner of a Stutthof concentration camp. This is a concentration camp 30 kilometers from the city of Gdańsk. So he was there. It destroyed his whole life, this experience. But he had a very strange idea because he invited me when I was 9 years old. He had a very strange idea to take me to the museum of the concentration camp. But the point is that he wasn't there earlier. I mean, that it was his first visit after the Second World War. And when we entered the museum, the gate of the museum, he started to scream, shout, cry. He was in immediate state of trauma. So I was 9 years old and I didn't know what to do, what was going on. I feel a little bit ashamed, really, you know what I mean? That there are a lot of tourists and my grandfather is behaving in such a way, and I really didn't know what is going on. But I was thinking about this experience year after year, and I'm still thinking about this experience because it led me to ask myself the questions: why people are hating each other, why people are killing each other, why people are building gas chambers and concentration camps. And it was one of my main questions, and till now. And so it was very, very important family history, which was very close to everyone in my family. His sister, Marta Kwiatkowska, was also a prisoner of concentration camp, and she was just mentally ill after the Second World War. So there was no contact with her. And I think this affected my whole family. But the point is that when I was a child, I was going to the musical school. So I was playing on clarinet, saxophone, and I really loved Mozart, Beethoven, everything like that. And till now, I prefer to listen to Glenn Gould and classical music than to listen to rock and roll music, which is strange because I'm a rock and roll musician. But I think that Glenn Gould was a bigger punk rocker than Iggy Pop. And I hope that Iggy Pop is not listening to this Zoom. So I was going to the musical school, so I was starting to be an artist. Then I was a coordinator of Amnesty International, the city of Gdańsk. So very, very, very fast, I found out that the point of human rights and violating of human rights is it's not something about the past, right? But it's something about our situation all around and about human nature. So then I started to be I was an activist in Amnesty International, but then I started to be a musician in a post-punk band, Trupa Trupa, and I also became a writer, and I was very, very curious about who we are as a Polish people, as a nation, and after Jan Tomasz Gross, great Polish historian, Polish Jewish historian, he published a book about Jedwabne, about Polish citizens that killed their Polish Jewish citizens. And for me, it was like a breaking point. I was asking, my family, my friends, my neighbors, did you know about that? It was really shocking knowledge, and the reaction of the people was very shocking because firstly they said it didn't happen. It was like a rejection. It didn't happen. We didn't kill our Jewish neighbors, etc. But then they said even if it happened, so what? These were Jewish people. Jewish people are guilty of everything. So and I heard about it really from great people. You know what I mean? And I was shocked that this anti-Semitism is really deep inside many people, but it was hidden. So I was going deeper and deeper inside the story of the history of the Holocaust, and so I was writing, researching, but I was always, let's say, lucky to unlucky stuff. So after many years of my marriage with my wife, I found out that my wife is a Jewish, and it was a family secret. There was a birthday party, 80th birthday party of her grandmother, and I was always very good or bad in asking faux pas questions. You know what I mean? I was just very curious, and I always asked people in a very open way about something. So I asked grandmother of my wife, what were you doing? It's not the best question during the birthday party. So what were you doing during the Second World War? I asked her, and she said, well, I was hiding in the forest. So I said, why? And she said, because it was the Second World War time. So everyone was hiding in the forest. So I said, no, not everyone was hiding in the forest. And she said, yes, everyone was hiding in the forest during the Second World War. So I asked her, are you a Jewish person from a Jewish family? And she said, and she started to shout on her birthday party, and she said, I hate Jewish people. I'm not a Jewish person. I hate Jewish people. When I was a child, I saw two Jewish boys who stole a Holy Communion from the church, and they took it on the video and they crushed it. And she was very happy to tell you, like she wanted to give me a proof. And I said, I know this story. It's a medieval ages false story, and so you're lying. And it was the end of the birthday party. And so I wasn't the best husband in this family, let's say. And then my wife told me, we didn't know. We were all shocked. And, wow, what a strange story. And many years later, they told me that they all knew, but it was really such a big family secret because of anti-Semitism all around that they even didn't tell me about it. And for example, my wife, her favorite game when she was a child was she was playing with a Ken and Barbie in hiding. It was her favorite play, you know what I mean? So I've got my family is now Polish Jewish family. My wife is a Polish Jewish. My two sons are Polish Jewish. She started to reconnect with her Jewish roots. She installed, for example, mezuzah on the door, but this is a really strange way how she did that, because it's in the inner side of the home. You know what I mean? It's not outside. So it tells a lot, right? For example, after 7th of October, she asked me, can I not speak publicly about the Jewish roots because they start to be afraid. After all, she gave me a green light because she said, okay, you have to do it. You have to speak about it. It's very important. But this is the way, I just wanted to say to you what is the center of my art. And the center of my art is my family. It's a very obvious thing. So, and I was always, my art about Polish guilt, and my art about genocide, and my art about Holocaust was almost always rejected in Poland. Both Trupa Trupa, my music, and literature. It was like I shouldn't say what I was saying. I was like almost every time, 99%. I had that. That's why we've got really great feedback in the Western world, because there is no other feedback. It's something like that, and it's got a lot to do not only with anti-Semitism, but also it's got a lot to do with there is a term Homo Sovieticus. We were a country which was affected by Soviet Russia. We were really living till 1989 in a kind of a totalitarian system. So people should be very humble. People shouldn't be proud of themselves. People shouldn't be happy and smile to each other. People shouldn't say to each other on the street, hello. And I was a rather different person. There is a word in Italian called pazzo. So I was rather a pazzo person, like a bit clown. So I made a little faux pas. And I will just tell you an example. My band published first international album, and we published first international album because no one was interested in Poland to do that. So great British label from London, Blue Tapes, published this album, and a few moments later we had great review in New York Times. One of the best pop critic in the world, Sasha Fair-Jones, he wrote, one of the best bands in the rock and roll world right now is Trupa Trupa from Gdańsk. And I read it and I said, oh my God, how great! This is such a great review, such a great start for a band. And I showed it to my friends from the band, and they said, oh my God, we got trouble. And they were really afraid and scared. And I said, hey, why you're scared? And they said, people will hate us here. And I said, no, this is a great review. Everything is fine. We've got international debit situation. Everything is good. But they were right. So the point is they were right. So people claim that we bought this review, something like that. And it was all connected always with a Jewish issue, right? That there is a Grzegorz Kwiatkowski is fighting with antisemitism, and he's so successful in the Western world, etc., etc. So a lot of this kind of atmosphere around me and my band, and till now, really, I've got a lot of invitation. For example, I am Yale Artist in Residence in 2025 in Fortunov Holocaust Archives, and there is almost no invitations from Polish universities and Polish scholars because they don't. Well, I don't want to say that there are no great scholars in Poland, right? Or there are some, right? But I'm a not typical normal scholar or poet or musician. So I'm a person who is in the world of music, in the world of poetry, in the world of university, and in some way they also don't know what to do with it, right? But when this rejection was bigger and bigger, I thought in some way that I've got nothing to lose. Well, I always thought that I've got nothing to lose, and I don't have this kind of a gene of fear. Maybe it's like a psychological problem, but I'm rather not afraid, of things, and I started to be very active in a commemoration of Jewish life in Gdańsk and in the Pomerania region. Firstly, it was 10 or 12 years ago, I found out that there was a Jewish ghetto in the city center of Gdańsk. There was a Jewish ghetto during the Second World War, and it was a very small ghetto, but it was a real ghetto where people were dying. And I asked City Hall and historians, it should be commemorated, right? And they said to me, but it was too small. It was too small, only 500 people died there, something like that. So, and this kind of answer, I had a lot, this kind of answer. So I said, okay, but still it was it's the tragedy took place there, and it's in the city center on the Granary Island. So I was fighting 10 years for it, year after year. I was sending an email to City Hall. They rejected any actions, and then I published an appeal in Times of Israel, and it was, I guess, really powerful appeal. And then the international pressure was so big that they commemorated this Jewish ghetto. So now there is a memory plaque. It's not a big commemoration, but still, now we can see that there was a ghetto and people were dying there. And but it took 11 years. So. Fortunately, now we've got a not anti-Semitic government. We've got central, not far right-wing government, and there is a possibility of making a lot of actions connected with a commemoration of a Jewish life and the Holocaust. So this battle, let's say I won, but there is a second thing, and this shoes tells about it, because almost also 10 years ago, me and my friend from band Trupa Trupa, we found almost 500,000 pairs of shoes near the fence of the museum of a concentration camp Stutthof, and they were just lying on the ground. They were rotting. They were everywhere, and the point is that Stutthof concentration camp was a leather liberation center for all concentration camps in Europe. So all the leather things were mainly shoes were going to Stutthof, and the Red Army, when they liberated the camp in 1945, they counted it, and it was 500,000 pairs of shoes. And in 1967, when the museum was established, they took small part of these shoes because these were mountains of shoes, literally. It was photographed, well documented. So they took small part of it and threw rest of it to the forest, and they were rotting. They are still rotting in the forest. And I was fighting for it, let's say 10 years. Yeah, we went to the manager of the museum and we said, to him, you've got a lot of shoes in your fence, dear XYZ. And he said, yeah, but these shoes are very damaged and they don't have any historical value. So they should stay like that, and we shouldn't remember about them. And the point is that most of the shoes, which is proven, were from Auschwitz. Most of the shoes were Jewish shoes from people who were murdered in the gas chambers. And I'm sure that the problem of, because I asked for preserving these artifacts of Holocaust for many years. And I think that if these shoes would belong to the Polish citizens, for example, Polish fighters from Warsaw Uprising, they would be collected in 1 year, and there would be a statue there. You know what I mean? But these are Jewish shoes, and there is no. So there were a lot of media alerts, publications in the Guardian, CBS, a lot of articles, reportages, and so the museum is always saying that they will do something. So they try to do something in a very symbolical way. But then I'm going to this forest with my son, every few months, and we are still going on the shoes, on the carpet of the shoes, and it's like a big area, like 10 these kind of places, and you can just walk on it and you can feel it's very soft. Because there are all of shoes, and if you will dig into the ground, you can just suddenly you see the children's shoe, the women's shoe, everything is still there. But now we've got this better government, I would say, and they told me that they will make an action. They will make an action, and they will collect them, they will preserve them, and they will do something with that. And Chief Rabbi of Poland, Michael Szudry, is also involved in this situation. He's a great friend. And always, if I've got any problem with officials in Poland, I always write to my friend Michael Szudry, and he's a very, very well-respected person, and he's helping a lot. So there, on one hand, we've got poetry, on the second hand, we've got music, and music is also for me arena of fighting with hatred. And in the past, I was afraid to touch the topics of the Holocaust and the history in the music because it's a psychedelic post-rock band, and I'm not the owner of the band, right? I'm not the leader. I'm a musician, I'm singing, but we've got a democratic structure. It's very, very rare in the rock and roll world. So we are voting everything. It's very hard to be in such a band, but it's very, it's a great thing. And a few years ago in city of Gdańsk, there was a very, very horrible event. The mayor of Gdańsk, great mayor of Gdańsk, Paweł Adamowicz, he was stabbed and murdered on the charity event. He was murdered by a psychopath, and this psychopath was influenced by the hate speech, which was produced by the national media under the peace government. So in 12 months, the published television in Poland produced, let's say, 200 materials about him. So they were spreading this hate atmosphere around him, and suddenly, the sick person killed him. And we were supposed to play on South by Southwest Festival in Texas, in Austin. I went Trupa Trupa, and we were devastated. We knew Major of Gdańsk, we knew him, and we were really, really sad, to say at least. And I thought that maybe it will be a good point to say something on this concert on South by Southwest Festival about hate speech and So we played these gigs in the memory of murdered President Paweł Adamowicz, and I called it anti-hate speech gigs in the concerts, and a lot of American media wrote about this tragic history. So I thought, okay, it works, right? So it works. This is a good platform to speak about hatred. Of course, when we came back to Poland, people said that we used memory of president to cynical PR gestures, and we did that only to make hype, something like that. So I told them, you're not right, because before this festival, we just signed the great American label Sub Pop, new label in France. So I said, I'm sorry, but we didn't need any promotion. So it wasn't because of that. But it's really hard to navigate and to moving forward in such post-Soviet society like Poland. On the other hand, the world right now is so crazy and darker every month. So now I don't see Poland as such, a crazy place as I saw it 1 year ago, for example, because the dark atmosphere is growing and growing, which of course not make me happy. The very important thing is also a book, because I write very specific books and poetry based on the Holocaust testimonies. They are translated by one of the best American translator, professor of the University of Connecticut, Peter Constantine. So if you don't mind, I will read you a few poems. Prose. Our real work is farm work, not killing. Although I admit the massacres in the swamps have the rhythm of our seasonal labor, and when the rains were heavy, we did not go out for crops. Ranger dance. During the war, we laid out bodies like wood, but after the war, we laid out wood in the forest like bodies freshly felled. World. I went with my child to the forest and cried helplessly with him. Tears dripped from my eyes, and the child wiped them away with his hand, and I so regretted that I had brought him into the world. Walter Stier. My father, a decent office worker in the railways, never took part in any of the shootings. He was just doing his job, organizing transports eastward and westward, north and south, back and forth. Karl-Heinz M. I was 14 years old. I was sterilized because I couldn't tell the difference between a brook and a stream, between steps and stairs. Richard Glaser. We arrived in Treblinka at 15:30. We crowded around the windows. I saw a green fence, barracks, and I heard something that resembled a running tractor engine. I was delighted. The place reminded me of a farm. Wonderful, I thought. I'll get a job about which I know a thing or two. Ernst Junger. War has let me down. Modern war has not met my expectations. It didn't live up to its literary ideal. For example, there were no horses. So this, it was by Ernst Junger, was a famous German writer with very complicated biography, to say at least. These were poems from the book Crops, already published, and these are poems from the new book, Without an Orchestra. It was published in Germany, but the American version was not yet published. So, good morning. Most of the townsfolk came to see their murdered neighbors. Some lay still alive in the pits. Good morning, Mr. Brumberg. Good morning, Mrs. Bulkin. Good morning. Good morning. Stanisław Galus. My sons killed the Jew Bawanowski. Bawanowski sputtered and they finished him off. They stripped him and dragged him away. One grabbed his legs, the other his head, up the hill, like a bull, naked, and they buried him. Mr. Mierzejewski. They killed one of them by the pond, the other in the bushes. It was not a German who murdered the Jewess, but a Pole. He raped her first, then murdered her. He is no longer alive. Mr. Mierzejewski. Szczuczyn. I did not take part in the pogrom because the thresher had chopped off my finger and I was at the hospital in Szczuczyn. Mietek Olszewicz. My father, my sister, my mother left for Łomża early in the morning because I told them that there will be killings here tomorrow. They will burn people, and if nothing happens, then just come back. And if something does happen, then you will have no one to return to. Dentist Elise Utna. After the harvest, the potato stalks were on fire. But actually, it was people who were burning. Ditches were dug around the pyres to drain the fat. I think it was Holy Thursday. All right. So it was part of this new book. There was also I will start to finish this part of my monologue, and then I will try to talk with you if you want to talk with me. There's also another thing, because what I want to say is that on one hand, the history is very dark thing, and the Polish and was the territory where when one of the biggest genocide in the history took place. But earlier I mentioned here about this government change in Poland, and it really matters. I mean that it really matters who is governing and who is in charge, and I can really see and feel that a lot of possible change in people's hearts, minds, and in actions can be done because of the new prime minister, for example. I will give you an example of very hardcore example, because do you know the movie director Agnieszka Holland? Agnieszka Holland is one of the best director in the world. She was many times nominated to Oscar. She's Polish-Jewish director, and she directed a movie called The Green Border. And The Green Border is a movie about the crisis on the Polish-Belarus border. So she made a movie, and my band Trupa Trupa was taking part in this movie. Our music is a part of the soundtrack. So the point is that under this old government 1 year ago, this movie won the special jury prize in the Venice Film Festival. And after that, the Prime Minister of Poland, Ministry of Justice of Poland, the boss of the biggest right-wing party in Poland, and the President of Poland, they said publicly that she's a Goebbels, Putin, spy, bad person. Everyone who was making this movie is a traitor. So it was like a very, very big message to the people of Poland. And then Agnieszka Holland had a lot of death threats. First time in her life, she had bodyguards, because she really could end like Paweł Adamowicz, Major of Gdańsk. Even Trupa Trupa, my band we had hate speech things and death threats on our social media for weeks, thousands of it. And then there was a switch in the government. We won the elections, and it ended. You know what I mean? Day after day, it was like the end of everything. So people are doing bad things when they know they can do bad things. You know what I mean? If they are allowed to do bad things. And I think that people knew, a lot of them, millions of them, that it would be not nice to make this kind of hate statements under the new government, which is, I think, great. So I really believe in power of art in the way of, it's like giving a message, right? A message that firstly, you shouldn't be afraid. You should say the truth, and you should just speak loud about what you think. And I think that I don't know better instrument than art for change your soul, mind, heart, and for changing people's characters. Even for me, the history of the Holocaust and the tragic history of my family is mainly about me and myself and my potential, my murderer potential. I'm sure that every one of us, as a human beings and animals, we are predators, and we've got this murdering potential in every one of us has got it because of an evolution. And I think that we should start to to think in terms of evil about ourselves. We should start to look at the mirror and think, am I a good husband, father, son, teacher, musician? Firstly, we should watch at our sins and try to be a better people, and then we should point out on other people and criticize other people. I think that's the beginning of the moral life, taking responsibility for action. And for me, the tragic lesson of Holocaust is mainly about that it can happen again, and it can happen suddenly, and a lot of people wouldn't be very sad about it, right? This is the most shocking thing that yeah. And now we've got war in Ukraine, we've got war in Israel. This time of wars is all around, and let's see what will happen in the next few months. I hope that Vladimir Putin will not try to make another steps, but I guess he can do. I think that if I understand properly, if USA will push on this compromise thing that now this part of Ukraine, which is under the Russia, is Russia. I think it will be the same like a monarchy, and I think that for a person like Vladimir Putin will be like a green light for next actions. And I think that Western Europe don't understand Vladimir Putin, and Western society don't understand that he's a really serious person who is saying very loudly what he will do, because he's saying very loudly what he will do. For example, he made an interview to this Fox News journalist a few months ago, and in 30 minutes, the word Poland, he said about Poland, 35 times, that Poland is guilty about this, and that, So I think that we are really living in the scary times, but we shouldn't be afraid about that. We should speak out about that, and I don't know any solution, but we should just move forward. Thank you.
So much, Grzegorz, for that wide-ranging, also quite visceral confrontation with the past and with the present. So many different issues you've raised. We do have some time for questions from the audience here in the room, and also on Zoom. If you're watching on Zoom, feel free to type your question into the chat, or if you would prefer to speak, please raise your hand virtually so that we can see you. So there's already one question on Zoom. Shall we take first one from the room and then we'll move to Zoom?
Thank you. That was really impressive, and I really like the way in which your family history and the environment of the city and the forest comes together with your art and with your politics. I wanted to ask whether you have any engagement also with the historiography of the Holocaust. So do you, did you study history? Did you read historical works about the concentration camps, the massacres in the places you were looking at? Have you done research, or would you think it's important to do that or not? Is it a different role that the historians and the artists have, or does it go hand in hand?
Well, this is a great question, a hard question. Of course, I made research, and the whole year, next year in New Haven will be one big research. So yeah, I'm doing it all the time, and so the point is that we should, in art thing, we should try to be as close as we can to the facts and to the truth. It's obvious, but this is a different thing, right? The book with poems is not a historical book, right? So anyway, we should base on historical books. It's not instead of a historical book, and if someone is really interested, he should read historical books, of course. I think these poems and this art is like it's like a shreds, like a parts, like puzzles, and most of the people who I know and who read this stuff, for them, it's like an engagement to go deeper to the history of Holocaust, for example. So it's like it works in such way. Yeah.
So your poems are based on sources?
Of course, yeah. All of them. But there is no imagination thing there. It's like more like a sculpture work, right? So you're exposing the voice and you're taking out some other stuff, but you are trying to be as close as you can to the truth and to someone's testimony. You can't change someone's testimony, right? So it's a very hard thing. I mean, it's like a it's like a minefield. I mean, it's very hard to navigate on the Holocaust territory when you're an artist. I think most of the art about Holocaust is like a kitsch. It's like a melodramatic thing, and it's I don't like it. And I don't say that I don't like this artist because it's very easy to not succeed. You can't succeed on such territory. That's the point. You can't succeed. There is a great big book by Didi Iberman, The Images Above All. It's the title. You know this book. That you should be as close as you can be to the image. This book by Didi Iberman is about the photographs from the Birkenau. So he said we can't understand it. We can't be there, but we can try to understand, try to be there. But we are losing, of course. And I think that this is this mechanism that we want. I try to be as close as I can, but I know that I will fail. So I'm not the wise guy who knows what was happening and what were they really feeling, etc. But the point is that I always believe in a polyphonic structure of an art. For me, the most important book is American book written by Edgar Lee Masters, Spoon River Anthology. It's a book written at the end of 19th century. It's a book about people who live in the Spoon River. It's like 100 of epitaphs, and people are saying what they were doing where they were alive. So I'm always trying to make a lot of voices, and I paint like a landscape of genocide, something like that. So in some way, for me, for example, the most important author is Polish British author Joseph Conrad, the author of Heart of Darkness. I think I try to do this kind of thing, and I think that the Heart of Darkness is inside of us. Unfortunately, that's the point.
Thank you. We did have a question on Zoom, I think Helen Brown. If you want to mute yourself and try to speak.
Yes, thank you. I can hear you. I think there are quite a few of us on Zoom who are listening to you. I'm sorry we can't engage with you any closer to the computer, but I just wanted to say that I was very struck by your poems. They made me think about Hannah Arendt and her controversial, but I think wonderful expression, the banality of evil, and very much that all the potential for all that is in all of us. I agree with you. And what I wanted to ask you, and I don't know how much you know or would be engaged in this, but as you're at the Leo Baeck College, can you tell us anything about progressive Jewish communities in Poland and how things are?
Yeah. Thank you for this question. I know a bit Gdańsk Jewish community. They are great people, and they are great people who, let's say, I don't know, there is 100. It's a very small Jewish community, 100 of people, I guess. But there is a synagogue in the city of Gdańsk, in Rzeszów district, which wasn't destroyed during the Second World War. And by the way, they were so lovely people that they invited my band for a recording session. So Trupa Trupa was recording in a synagogue for a few months for free. And we made the anti-war album. So they are lovely people. There is one point, and I think I'm a good partner for them because, as I told you earlier, I'm not afraid of making some faux pas statements and speaking out, even if I'm not the most clever person in the room. And I think that I think that there is something in Poland, it's kind of a Jewish fear. I can see it in my family, in my wife's family. There are, but by the way, after my wife made, let's say, coming out, then we found out, my family, with my wife, that 4 of our friends are Jewish. And they said to us, yes, we are too, and I knew them for 40 years, you know what I mean? And suddenly they said, yes, Big Father always told me not to say about it now. And I think that there is that, for example, Jewish community in Gdańsk, they've got this kind of a fear, so they will not push hard on some stuff, right? They will not fight with the politicians. They're trying to be very diplomatic and very nice and delicate, and I'm the one who can make some harsher actions. So it's a perfect symbiosis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a couple of comments. Well, thank you very much. Very, very interesting. First one was you talked about Jewish community. I remember being there in about 30 years ago, and there were actually two tiny communities, one traditional and one very sort of liberal, who didn't actually talk to one another.
It's still like that because I talked with them two weeks ago. I guess it's still like that.
Okay.
But we try to connect them.
Well, I wish you much joy. The other one is about Stutthof. I went there in 1998, and there was virtually no indication that Jews had ever been to Stutthof. It was a concentration camp for Polish dissidents, for Polish aristocracy, for Polish politicians. Virtually no mention of Jews, not even a symbol. I think there's now a Magen David in a circle.
Yes.
I think my sister had that erected.
So you wrote to me an email a few years ago after Times of Israel article.
Yes.
Okay, it's you. Amazing. Okay. Yeah. Right.
But is there much more indication that Jews were there?
I will make a comment because it's very important, and I should say about it earlier, because I said that the problem of these shoes were that these were Jewish shoes, but it's a bigger problem. The narration of a Stutthof concentration camp in Poland is that it was a concentration camp of Polish intelligentsia, of teachers, priests, etc. And in 1944, it was a death camp. And almost half of the victims of the Stutthof were Jewish victims. And the narration is not like that. And now there is a small room in on the exhibition about the Jewish life and death in the museum, but it's like a really tiny. And this statue is also almost invisible because it's almost in the forest. So I think this is the problem. This is the problem of this museum. But now the government changed, and there is a new person who is Piotr Rybson. He's working in the Ministry of Culture, and he's responsible for all museums and narration of museums in Poland. And he's a genocide scholar, great person. And I called him and I said, what was the problem? And I think he perfectly knows the problem. So they try to work on the next steps to include or to say the whole truth about the history of this concentration camp. Because yeah, Jewish history was not at all there. Now it's a bit of it, but still in the Polish memory, it's a Polish concentration camp. But it's changing a bit. But it's really hard. You know, I'm fighting for it many years. So it's all about politicians, decisions, not popular decisions. Because if you've got most of Polish people are anti-Semitic, and I think so. I think many people would say that I'm wrong. I think so. So and they are voting, right? So we have to be very delicate, etc. But I think we are going in a good direction right now, and I think that there will be a change of an exhibition in Stutthof concentration camp, which will include in bigger way the Jewish life and death. So I hope it will change. But thank your sister made a big thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for a great talk, and more than that, thank you for what you do, which is, I've been following for the last 5 years or so, and for me to have someone who is not Jewish, I mean, he was Jewish, but fighting for the truth, and particularly with the Peace and Justice Party over that period when it was so hard. What I was interested in is that you said that your poems are based on real life stories. Mm-hmm. So was that through people you yourself have interviewed? Did you read Holocaust testimonies? In other words, how did you find this material? Because I think most Poles would not admit to what happened during the Holocaust in what they talked about in Holocaust. So was this Jewish testimony? How did you find that information?
Yeah, well, most were well, it's very hard thing to find in Poland, you're right, but on the other hand, we've got a Centrum Badań nad Zagładą, center of what is the name of the English name of it? It's called Centrum Badań nad Zagładą. So we've got a group of great scholars who are working for many years in this issue. So we've got a lot of materials actually, and a lot of testimonies and a big research. So
Is that in Gdańsk?
no, in Warsaw.
In Warsaw.
Yeah. But as I told you earlier, I mean that it's not a topic. Even the people who I know that are Jewish people, they don't want to touch the topic. That's the point. For example, in Gdańsk there is a woman who were in the Jewish ghetto in Gdańsk, and I wanted to make an interview with her about it because she and her family was there, and so I wanted to write it down, and there was one big no, for example, I was talking with mother of my wife, and about this issue because she was her friend, this lady, and mother of my wife told me, will it help us? Will it help us that people will know that we are Jewish people? Tell me, Grzegorz. And I said to her, it was very sad moment, but I said, no, we cannot help you. And it was the end of the conversation. So yeah. But it's hard to find. Yeah, it's hard to find material. On the other hand, there are great researchers and scientists. There are a lot of testimonies and material all around the world. So it's not only about Polish language, right? There are a lot of sources. And for me, the matrix source, the most important source, and then is of course Shoah by Claude Lanzmann. I think that the thing he made was like I didn't discover better understanding or trying to understanding of what happened than his art. I think it's like
Just while we're on that subject of Shoah, I mean, her own work certainly reminded me of that film. And it's a film that has received some criticism for being anti-Polish or extremely critical of Poles during the Holocaust.
yes.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I'm from Gdańsk. I mean, that I don't feel like a 100% Polish citizen. I'm from Free City of Gdańsk. I don't care. Well, it's my mother has got a Prussia roots, for example. So it's all mixed and complicated. I think that I used to be kind of a persona non grata in Poland, and I maybe it's not that I like it, but I don't care. So I don't feel bad when someone is criticizing Romania, Poland, USA, Great Britain, or Israel, or Ukraine and Russia. I mean, that it's like, for me, it's all about people, right? Individuality. So for me, the issue of nations is not so important issue, and I think I'm always trying to have a contact with an individual person, and I always am very keen to know the individual story. On the other hand, because I will tell you an anecdote. It's well, I don't want. It's an anecdote, but it's a true thing. So 1 month ago or 2 months ago, my wife thought that our youngest son Joseph Isaac, and it's also got a lot to do with the reconnection with Jewish roots. So our 1-year-old wonderful son Joseph Isaac. So my wife thought that he's got a spectrum of autism. So we were talking with a lot of doctors and scientists, and they made a research and they painted our house, etc. And then the biggest expert on this topic said to my wife, dear Mrs. Marta, your son Joseph Isaac doesn't have spectrum of autism, but your husband has got spectrum of autism from A to Z, but he's high functioning. So, and my wife said, oh yes, so you can see it because I always knew it, and we are walking the same path on our walks for 10 years, every time, the same thing, we're doing the same thing. So I think I'm mentioning about that because I'm very, focused, and I can go very deep, but I'm not seeing the whole things, you know what I mean? So so very, very often I'm doing something which can be not accepted by someone, and I even don't know about it. You know what I mean? And I think it's a good thing on this field, because if I would have full knowledge about everything what I'm doing on this minefield, as I told you, I think I would be frozen from fear. I remember when for example, I read poetry of Paul Celan when I was. First time I read it when I was 30 years old, very, very old, very late. And I thought, oh my God, I'm so happy that I didn't read it earlier, because I wouldn't write any poem about Holocaust. Because it was so great, you know what I mean? It was so good that I shouldn't even touch the topic, because he did that in a better way.
There's a question on Zoom. Is that you, Miri? Jewish Historical Society of England.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Grzegorz. I know you're not from Warsaw, but since you're here, I have a question maybe you can help with. And that is, when the museum in the center of Warsaw was opened, Polin, the aim was to show 1,000 years of Jews really part of Polish society, material culture and labor in neighborhoods, etc. And I think that the vision behind it was some sort of acceptance of the Polishness of the Jews of Poland. And I'm very surprised. I'm a medieval historian myself, although I'm very interested in everything that happens at LBI and GHIL. And historians I've met, Polish historians, I just asked them, oh, have you been? What do you think about it? It doesn't seem to have become a thing. It doesn't seem to have been, I think tourists go to it. But I mean, do you have any sense of what this venture, which I think is about 10 years old now, how successful it's been?
But what do you think about it as a historian? Do you think there was a friendship between Polish and Jewish people in the past? Because
There was neighborhood. There was neighborhood. And, neighborhood is not a bad thing to establish.
okay, but do you think that it was because in my opinion there wasn't a love story, never ever.
No, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Come on, I'm a medieval historian. I'm absolutely.
That's why I'm not a big fan of this museum. I've got big
Okay.
but I'm not a fan about this kind of a love story thing from the past. But it's a complicated thing. In my opinion, there wasn't a big friendship and there wasn't a big love, and these were two separate worlds, and not always, but mainly. So I think that they've got this idea. Okay, I understand it, but I don't agree with that. I was very surprised when I was in Poland. I was surprised that the Holocaust part was a really, really little part. And they said, yeah, it was our point of it. Our aim that we didn't want to say that the Jewish history in Poland is all about Holocaust, but it was a really tiny fragment. So for me, it was like not a good idea. So I guess you think the same. Am I right or wrong?
I mean, I think that when you position Jews as neighbors, in fact, it makes more tragic and heartbreaking and needing of explanation the breakdown. So it's not because I'm romanticizing the past, it's because this possibility of breakdown that is so challenging and so needy of explanation, I think, not just in this case, but particularly in this case, when you see the embeddedness of the Jews in the communities and villages and so on, and also in cities, of course. I suppose that's why I thought that it was a worthwhile exercise, because there is an explanandum here.
Yeah, you know, I remember when I was talking with my grandmother, my Polish grandmother, and after young Tomasz Gross published this book, Neighbors, and so I was buying a lot of copies, and I was, you know what I mean, like, you know, you have to read it, you know, we have to face it, we have to face our sins, you know, be a better people. And I was like, you know, and there was another dinner party or birthday party, something like that, and I asked her, so what do you think, dear grandmother, about what happened? That the Polish citizens murdered Jewish neighbors. And she said, I'm not surprised. They were always egoistic. And I said, who? Jewish people. And it was the end of the comment. You know what I mean? And I was really shocked. But I think that she really, because she said about it in a very delicate way. No, she wasn't angry. She just said something which is very well known. Yeah. So unfortunately, I think that anti-Semitism was a part of the European culture. You know, that's the shocking fact. And I think we have to face it, that most of these people were anti-Semitic. And you know, then I was reading Thomas Mann, Magic Mountain. Every year I'm reading Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, and the Holocaust, etc. I love Thomas Mann. But every year I'm discovering something else. And this year I discovered a lot of anti-Semitic issues in this book. I mean, that you know, the NAFTA, the character, the opposite character to Settembrini, you know, this Jesuit NAFTA, you know, he's from Jewish family and he's making some, you know, strange things. It's so stereotypical. I mean, there are a lot of these kind of parts in this book, but I think that Thomas Mann wasn't exceptional. I think it was like a, you know, normal thing. There is only one author where I can't see anti-Semitism. He's called Franz Kafka, and I love him so much.
Jewish.
Yeah, of course.
What is it like with swastikas in Poland? The reason I ask is it's about 5-6 years ago, the skate park in Burgess Hill in Sussex, where I live, was plastered in swastikas, did not appear in the local paper.
Mm-hmm.
I asked to see the police,
Mm-hmm.
refused.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was Cranley.
Mm-hmm.
A bit later, I know that for some work when I used to drive through Cranley. I don't think that was quite as bad as Burgess Hill. Whether it was in a local paper, I don't know. But in January of last year, Burgess Hill was daubed in swastikas.
Mm-hmm.
Some private houses,
Mm-hmm.
signs, and ironically, the person who he needed well over a week to clean them all was Frank from the Czech Republic.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we don't have this shit at home. If we did, it would be all over the papers.
Yeah, I think it's not allowed to use this symbol.
So
It's
what
not
is the...
It's not allowed. It's not allowed. It's not allowed to.
What's
use,
the police reaction? You see, our...
In 90s in Poland, there was a lot of swastikas and Jewish stars on the buildings. I mean, that a lot of these kind of things. I mean, that anti-Semitic graffitis, let's say. But now they are gone, fortunately. By the way, because we were talking about antisemitism and we didn't touch the topic of Holocaust denialism, and I think that the situation changed so much from 7th of October that I think that it's so tragic issue, because I think now the problem is not that someone is denying that there was a Holocaust, and that people say that it didn't happen. I think that the problem right now is that people are saying, okay, it happened, so what? You know what I mean? That's the bigger level in the way. So what? They killed 6 million Jewish people. So what? So I think we are in a very, very horrible stage right now. We are in different zone and point, and yeah. Anyways, swastikas are not allowed in Poland. And as I told you, that our government is really, really, really good one, and the city of Hall in Gdańsk is a really good one. As Joe said, I asked after the commemoration of Jewish ghetto, Mayor of Gdańsk invited me on a meeting and said to me, "What do you want from us in the topic of a Jewish life in Gdańsk?" So I said, "Can you install stolpersteins?" And she said, "Okay, we will do it." So I said, "Okay, so please, can you make a monitoring cameras on the Jewish cemetery in Gdańsk, which is very often devastated by neo-Nazis?" He said, okay, we'll do it. So I said, okay, super. You know, it was very easy to do because the atmosphere, the political atmosphere is very good. Okay.
And one final, very quick. Are there any Polish Jewish MPs in your parliament?
I don't think so. No, I didn't think so. There was a big problem with anti-Semitic MP called Grzegorz Braun. It was 1 year ago, and there was a what is the name? There was a Hanukkah event of burning the candles in the parliament, and he destroyed this event. He interrupted the event and he destroyed everything. And I was really sad. And then I wrote to City Hall of Gdańsk. I said, can we in Gdańsk show the different thing that we will light the candles and celebrate Hanukkah? And City Hall next day, the Jewish community came to City Hall and we made a Hanukkah event. So it was, you know, there's action and reaction. I think now it's a good time in Poland. It's easy. What I didn't say earlier is that, in my opinion, nowadays it's easy to be an activist when you've got a media, social media, emails. You know, it's not so hard. It's really easy to make an alert and to spread the information to the media. Yeah, so I think it was never easier to make kind of activist steps like right now.
Yes.
Just a quick question about the Catholic Church. You mentioned the change in government, but what role does the Catholic Church play in this whole story?
Polish Catholic Church, right? I mean, they're right now there is no issue between Poland. You know, there are almost no Jewish people in Poland. You know what I mean? It's like a theoretical issue. It's you know, when there was a Jedwabne, the discussion about Jedwabne, this tragic, horrible event, the Catholic Church, they took place in the commemoration of this event, and they publicly made kind of gestures from their side that they are sorry. So they did. But anyway, no, I'm sure that they are not. They don't love Jewish community, and I'm pretty sure that Jewish community don't love them. You know what I mean? So, but it's not a problem. Right? There is no war. There is no war zone. There is no. But you know. Yeah. The other thing is that more and more Polish people are not connected with the Catholic Church, so it's not the Catholic Church from the communism era. It's not so strong institution. It's a different institution. And now they've got a big problem with the pedophilia scandals, etc. So they've got their own things. Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to be really nerdy. I want to know more about the shoe industry that was there. What were they doing? Shipping loads of shoes in from all over the place. Were the people like cleaning them up, repairing them, and then selling them out, and then sent out to be redistributed for people to wear? Because people were really poor. They didn't have, you know.
They were repairing them and they were giving them to German army.
Oh, because that's just the men's shoes of a certain size. What about the other shoes? Because just ordinary civilians were really poor.
No, but
they
wanted shoes. But they took the leather from the shoes. They didn't give women's shoes to women in Germany, but they just took this leather and they were reconstructed. I don't know the word. You know what I mean? They were.
There's always been a huge.
They were taking material, right?
Oh right, they were dismantling it, right? Because there's always been a big second-hand market in second-hand clothes. Is a big thing. So I don't know why they were. I don't quite get it, but it's a very interesting.
You don't quite get it that they took that they were taking the shoes.
Yeah, they brought the shoes in, repaired them, and didn't sell them out again because there's always been a big second-hand clothes business. Yeah. That's all. I'm just.
Well, maybe there are some companies that.
You know, all you've got's leftovers, as it were.
As far as I understand that there were for German army. That's what I know, but I'm not sure. I won't tell you that for 100% it was only about German army.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
No, it's a great question, but I can tell.
I'd like to know more about that sort of slightly more mundane, that mundane business and yeah, recycling. recycling
Yeah,
shoes that people who didn't.
by the way, this is a very shocking thing because there is a Manfred Goldberg. He's a British. Do you know Manfred Goldberg? And Manfred Goldberg. I talked with Manfred Goldberg for a Guardian. Me and Kate Connolly, because Guardian made an article 1 year ago about the shoes, and then we made a follow up with journalist Kate Connolly, and we talked with Manfred. And Manfred and his mother, they were in Stutthof concentration camp, and they saw these mountains of shoes. And Manfred was with the Prince William and what is the name of his wife? Prince William and Kate, right? And so he was in 2019. He was in a Stutthof concentration camp, and he was going with Prince William and Kate, and he was showing them the Stutthof concentration camp, and he didn't know that few hundreds meters from him in the forest, these shoes that he saw with his mother are rotting in the ground. And he found about that from me and Kate Connolly. And he was so sad, so angry, so pissed off. And he said to Gordon that his opinion, these shoes should be not only collected and saved as an artifact of genocide, but they should look like they looked during in the camp. So these mountains should be in some way reconstructed, and they should be, for example, under the glass, but they are so shocking thing, and this never forget thing, never again thing is something that is a message that comes from this image of shoes. This is a small file, but
it's a lovely photograph. I will say it's a beautiful photo. I've enjoyed sitting.
This
here
is very strange.
I've enjoyed sitting, watching that, looking at that a lot whilst you've been. That's just my opinion. I don't know.
I'm not a good photographer, but thank you. But the point is that you can just see, because this is a small pile of shoes, and the point is that you can see the trees there. So it's like a 1 kilometer all around. These shoes are everywhere under the ground. So a lot, really a lot. And the point is that this pile of shoes is now visible because every year when some international journalists, for example, from Guardian, they are coming to the museum, people from museum workers are saying, okay, we have to do something, and they are taking something like that and they say, please look, we're doing something. But there are tons of other shoes all around. And they finally, they usually say, we can't do it, we can't, it's too much, it's too many, we can do it. But I will tell you another story, which is really hardcore story. And 3 years ago, me and my son, because from time to time they are collecting something like that. So 3 years ago, me and my son were going by car, and our car was broken. We were on the countryside, we were in the mechanical station, right? And we were waiting for a new part. And the boss of this mechanical station was like a historian, amateur, anti-Semitic person. And he wanted to entertain us, and so he made some anti-Semitic claims, etc., etc. And I was very curious what he's saying, so I said, "Yeah, please come on, I can tell you more of that." And then he said, "Do you know that the truck with the shoes from Stutthof came to the biggest trash point in Gdańsk a few months ago, but this trash point, utilization point, rejected it, and they burned this big truck of shoes on this hill next to my car station." And I was so shocked because I was the person who was fighting for it, and it was such a strange accident. And then he found out that I was very nervous, and so I asked him, "Can you tell me more? Can you tell me more?" But he didn't. So I think that a lot of these shoes, by the way, were burned. They weren't preserved, but the shoes they took from the forest, they just burned. I don't know, it's not proven thing, right? It's a hypothetical, but I think that he didn't invent this story. It's science fiction.
Good.
So now we've got atmosphere like from David Lynch movies. It's like
It's just, are there any more questions on Zoom or in the room? Well, that is a suitably chilling note to end on in that case. But it's been a fascinating talk and questions, and thank you to everyone who's asked a question. And as you mentioned, Grzegorz, there may be some cause for optimism now, at least in Poland, which is good news. And yeah, hopefully that will continue. But for this evening, we have some drinks down the corridor on the left, if you'd like to join us for that. Sorry to those of you on Zoom that you can't join, but thank you for your attention. Thank you for your questions. This is the last of our lectures for this year, but we'll be publicizing 2025's lecture series fairly soon. So please keep your eyes out for that. And have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that I'm very, very happy, very, very thankful that I talked to you, that you wanted to hear me. Sorry for my broken, chaotic English. And yeah, and I know it was pretty chaotic, but yeah, this is who I am. So I hope you didn't sleep.
No, it was fantastic. Thank you, Grzegorz.